Ahoy! Recently I talked to you about weapon builds and the tier 1 items of that category, and today we're going to look at spirit items. Spirit items are a very interesting topic because they're a little bit different from weapon items. So as you can see, the 500 souls category here comes with +4 spirit power by default. Every one of these items will have thus +4 spirit power in the top right corner. Along with that, you have some somewhat more unique effects because we, for example, have an active item here. So spirit power is a little bit different because in the beginning of the game you won't benefit from it as much with most characters, simply because you won't have all of your abilities unlocked. Weapon damage is typically what you might want to build for your first item if you're not building vitality, and then spirit usually comes a little bit later, though it depends. If you say you want to have a mini turret beginner's build and you're going into that right away, and then you want to get the extra charge immediately, then sure, go for it, that's an option. But generally, for most characters, for most playstyles, you're probably going to go for like one gun damage item before you consider a spirit item. Speaking of extra charge, we're going to skip over Ammo Scavenger first because I think that's a very interesting one that I want to get back to a little bit later because there's a lot to talk about with it. Extra charge, however, is a bit simpler. It comes with a standard 4 spirit power. It gives you 1 bonus ability charge, 10% cooldown reduction, 4 charged abilities, and +6 weapon damage. So this actually has a little bit of crossover with weapon items, which is why some characters can get away with this as the first item as well if you really want to, because you're getting weapon damage from it anyways. So if we buy this with McGinnis, we already have 2 turrets, and if we only put an additional point into a 1, we immediately have 3 turrets that we can put down. There's still a little bit of cooldown in between them. You can't see that because my cooldown's turned off, but now you can see it. You still have that 5 seconds cooldown before you can place the next one. But obviously, if you want to play very aggressive with turrets, that is an option. For most other characters, I would say consider if extra charge provides you with sufficient value early on. I feel like, for example, Lash, you really want to have the ability to latch onto enemies twice. I think there's a lot of purpose in that. Maybe if you're playing a poke-heavy Shiv build, then you might want to have the extra charge early, but even there I wouldn't say it's a necessity. And some characters can also just get away with it a little bit later and you go for some other items before that. In many ways, this is really more of a playstyle and overall build decision. Extra spirit is very simple. It gives you an additional 8 spirit power on top of the 4 it already offers, so 12 total. It gives you 1 health regen, which is very nice, and 35 bonus health, which isn't all that much. Of course, one big reason why people may be getting this is because they want to get improved spirit and maybe eventually boundless spirit. It is debatable if that is the path you want to opt for, just due to the fact that boundless spirit is incredibly expensive if you're adding all these price points here together, and there may often be somewhat better options for late game builds that are effectively also cheaper. So there's a lot of discussion about that. I will not go into that in detail here. I just wanted to let you know that this discussion exists and you can decide for yourself if you want to go extra spirit. But either way, in early game, this gives you a nice spirit boost, and it also gives you some sustain and lane some regeneration, which I think is a pretty nice combination. It's not going to be the best sustain item, but it is the best spirit power item that just gives you a flat value outright consistently. So there's definitely perks to this, there's definitely value to this in builds that just scale well off of spirit power. In case you don't know if something scales well off of spirit power, then you can always hold Alt and hover over the ability. You have to specifically hold Alt, and then you'll see this little star up top, and that tells you the scaling. So for example, the turrets here have 0.4 scaling with your spirit power. And you can see that is showing for all of the abilities, so you get a very good picture of how worth it is for your character to invest heavily into spirit itself, or if you rather want to build for special effects. If you're enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. It really helps the channel, especially trying to get discovered in a new game like Deadlock. Speaking of special effects, we have Mystic Burst. This actually does more than just provide you with extra burst. It gives you 40 spirit shield health, again not a crazy amount but nice bonus, and it gives you 6% weapon damage. So again, this is basically also a bit of both categories. It is spirit but also weapon damage. It's also once again the same value as extra charge. It is 6 weapon damage again, so the same value as a tier 1 weapon item. Additionally, abilities deal bonus spirit damage if they deal 80 damage or more in a single hit, with a 6 seconds cooldown and 35 bonus damage. Very strong effect on bursty characters. Let me just demonstrate that really quick with Lash. Right now we have extra charge, so we're not getting any extra damage, but we have the same spirit power. If I jump over here, slam down, we have 127 damage. Lash gets this burst bonus very, very easily due to his jump effect. Now, if instead we are going for Mystic Burst, this now does 155. Very strong perk for many, many heroes, and also comes with a strong upgrade, which is Improved Burst, at which point it also deals maximum health bonus damage. So that's going to be strong throughout the rest of the game in any match really. The problem is, or the thing that you need to pay attention to, is that at this point to activate this you need 125 damage or more in a single hit, otherwise it won't proc. So don't upgrade it too early if your abilities don't deal enough damage. With a 6-second cooldown you can get this off multiple times in the same fight, but usually not in the same ability combo that you're doing. I also just discovered something interesting about the Mystic Burst effect that I wasn't aware of. If you're hitting multiple targets, and you hit them for example like this, then you'll see that the damage is significantly different between them, because they're getting hit after each other and the burst effect is already on cooldown. You can see that it immediately is procced as a cooldown and it doesn't go off. But if it hits both targets around the same time, both of them are taking the damage bonus. So it really depends on the ability and how you use it. If we were to max Flog here, we once again see, even though they are behind each other, because of the way the ability kind of hits them at the same time anyways, it's not going to reduce the damage, it's going to apply the burst on both. So it's very weird how with certain abilities it works differently. But here we can once again see that's the same value, and if he goes behind it, it's a different value. This makes Mystic Burst not only great for pressure, but also for clearing if you have a good AoE ability for that. You see that I can easily hit both of these minions here, and both of them get the Mystic Burst bonus damage applied. So makes for much easier clearing, along with the 6% weapon damage it also provides, which also help with clear. There are definitely characters where it doesn't work that well, but on the ones it does, it's fantastic and pretty much a must-buy. Now don't get me wrong, I love Mystic Reach, but if we look at the raw stats, it's unfortunately not the greatest. It offers you 4 spirit power, 15% ability range, and 5% spirit resist. Compared to other perks here that come with more survivability, with more damage, this isn't all that much, especially because spirit damage is often not the biggest threat for you early, so spirit resist is often not that beneficial early. So I like it, and on some characters it's very useful, but I wouldn't recommend putting it as your first spirit item unless you are only opting into higher tier items, or unless you need to have the radius of an ability be wider to hit more of a minion wave, for example. Lady Ice is a character I really like this on, because she really needs to be close range for some abilities without it, and I think it increases your overall effectiveness. You can see without it, if you put a circle right on the dummy, then it just barely reaches out to 7 there. Put Mystic Reach in there, and our radius increases quite significantly. We can also, of course, increase our reach further. We could do improved reach later on. Let's improve the Q here, or the one here as well. You can see that the radius is pretty gigantic at this point. I think there can be value in that, but I also think that the value is somewhat diminishing. If we're just going for Mystic Reach, I think this radius for most abilities is enough. This is enough to utilize it for a wave. And again, it might not be the first thing you need. I think if I'm choosing between Mystic Burst and Mystic Reach, there's a good chance I would go for Mystic Burst first, just because it provides more in terms of overall pressure compared to Mystic Reach, which may hit an extra minion if I use it. It's also sometimes used as a crutch if you don't really know your ability ranges yet and you're kind of just missing too much. And hey, sure, if you are missing your abilities because you can't reach with them, then getting Mystic Reach and actually getting the damage off can be helpful. But on the other hand, it also helps to learn the range of your abilities. That's not to say that it doesn't have purposes, of course. Like I said, I really like this item. And for example, when it comes to area denial, Mystic Reach is fantastic. If you have a character like Bebop and you get Mystic Reach and the bomb radius is just significantly bigger, that can be very impactful. It can be impactful on characters like Seven, in my opinion, as well. I don't even know how many people like it on Seven, but I think it's a very interesting option on Seven with his AoE stun effect. Just have a look at it. The ability starts out with this radius here, pretty small. Then If we put 2 points into it, it gets plus 8 meters radius. We're looking at a pretty wide area covered already. But now if you put improved reach in there, mystic reach rather, it gets somewhat ridiculous. We're actually going all the way to this other minion back there, which otherwise wouldn't be reached. So yeah, again, it's up to you how far you want to push this. I think mystic reach can be useful if your character generally works well with reaching further. Improved reach is more debatable depending on the character, depending on the ability, how much effectiveness you get out of that. Looks pretty crazy on 7 though when this entire area is covered and everyone in this area is going to get stunned. Spirit Strike comes with a lot of different perks. It comes with, for Spirit Power, 100 Spirit Shield health, quite a lot, 1 health regen, 15% melee damage, and additionally, when you perform a light or heavy melee attack against a hero, deal extra spirit damage with the attack and reduce the target's spirit resist. This is 52 spirit damage and minus 12% spirit resist with a 13 seconds duration on an 8 seconds cooldown. So you can keep this up permanently if you're able to stick to an enemy. It is worth noting that this does not have a visual effect. If you're punching someone, there's not a permanent debuff that stays on them that would tell you that they are currently debuffed. But if you compare it, you can see that the damage values on the left, on this guy who was debuffed, were actually higher than on the dummy. So the increase happens, it's just not very visually obvious compared to some other items like, for example, Mystic Vulnerability. Note that when it comes to Spirit Strike, this only works against heroes. Punching a minion with it won't activate the effect. But you're still getting the extra 15% melee damage against the minions as well. I know I generally don't favor Spirit Shield early on, but in this case I will have to say 100 is a pretty significant amount, and the 1 health regen is also pretty good. We talked about that yesterday. The question of when would you use this kind of answers itself. You're using this if you're playing melee and you're doing a melee build. Outside of that, you're probably not going to build it all too much because it is just so melee focused. But I think it's a very effective item for a melee build, especially if you're doing a combo of melee damage and spirit damage. And this is the point where we would talk about Infuser, but now we're going to go back first and talk about Ammo Scavenger, because I think that's very important in the context of Infuser. And I really underestimated Ammo Scavenger. I did not do testing for it before, and after testing it now, I will say this item is much better than I give it credit for. So first of all, what are we getting? We're getting 4 spirit power, we're getting 15% extra ammo, which is nice, but I'm not really going to get an item for that on a spirit character, and we're getting 60 bonus health. On top of that, we have a passive. Anytime you secure or deny a soul, you get ammo back and gain stacking spirit power. This is the part that I didn't really read properly and didn't really look into properly. You get 2 ammo back per soul. You get 2 spirit power per soul. This is conditional. The spirit power lasts for 35 seconds, and this has a maximum of 12 stacks. That means the total spirit power this item can provide when it's fully stacked is 28 spirit power. And I thought, okay, that's fine, but you're going to drop off stacks fairly often. It's not going to be that great. It's more just for people who want to get the ammo back, but then you're also just getting 2 ammo back, which often won't matter that much because that might be gone again quickly. But it's not like that. Assuming you're not going back to base, you can pretty much expect to run this at full stacks after a couple of waves. Why is that? Because the buff that you're getting here doesn't fall off. It refreshes with every single stack of it. Instead of this like falling off gradually, you can see I have 6 now. I have had this stack for a while. And now we're going to get ourselves a new target. And this stack would drop off soon if I didn't do anything here. We're gonna shoot this guy a couple of times. Very slowly, very easily. And now we have 8 stacks. These 8 stacks, we got it like 57, 15. And we're gonna fast forward a little bit here and see what happens. There you go. It's actually guessing the time a little bit wrong there, but you can see we didn't lose one of the stacks earlier. We lost all of the stacks at once, which means none of the stacks fall off. They all refresh together. So as long as you get 1 stack, if you have a few stacks, within this 35-second duration, you keep all of those stacks. So you just need to get 1 stack within 35 seconds. You also don't even need to shoot the souls. You can, but if you look here, I just got a stack from punching and I got 2 ammo back from punching. Punching counts as securing a soul and as such gets all the same benefits without even needing to use any ammo. We can do that again. So we have 6 bullets now, punching, and I have 8 bullets, and I've got that extra power, which again is very hard to get rid of. It's very hard for that to actually fall off. The only problem that you have with Ammo Scavenger is that you need to secure or deny souls, and if you're going into the jungle, for extended periods of time especially, that won't be the case. Because what happens when you kill a jungle creep here is you're not getting any soul that you can shoot at, because it's an unsecured soul. You get unsecured souls down here, so you can't secure a soul with it, and as such, you can lose your stacks through that. But if you're able to keep up some degree of continuous pressure in lane, you get significant benefits from this. You also can stack this from shooting souls that come from other sources, like for example, if you take down a guardian, that counts as well. Just again, souls that you get out of boxes, for example here, are unsecured souls. You will not get any stacks from that. So extra fun is, McGinnis turret also gives you souls, so you can say thank you to the enemy McGinnis if she keeps dropping down turrets. As such, yeah, I'm very much sold on Ammo Scavenger now. I think the value is much higher than I would have expected due to the effect being much easier to stack relatively consistently. Even if it drops off occasionally, you still get a ton of power very quickly just from a single wave again. Problem with this is that it doesn't upgrade into anything. Many of the other early items here in this tree are just upgradable things, so they have some long-term purpose in the game. And if you need too many of them, or you want to get into multiple tier 2s quickly, like duration extender, improved cooldown, mystic vulnerability, especially mystic vulnerability is very, very commonly used, then you kind of may not have a slot for this. You have to choose for yourself how important other perks are in comparison. And that brings us to Infuser, because Infuser is so similar in so many ways. 4 spirit power again, 50 bonus health this time, and 10% ammo. Compare that here, we have a little more bonus health on this, and 5% more ammo. So in every stat, every flat stat, Infuser is just a worse version effectively. But Infuser has one advantage over Ammo Scavenger, and that is the active effect being instant, not requiring anything, and that's plus 16 spirit power and plus 20% spirit lifesteal. This can, of course, turn a trader out quite well. If you're playing spirit characters with early high pressure, like for example Calvin once you have his beam, then I can absolutely see you maybe wanting to use this, since you can basically not lose a trade while this effect is active early on. On the other hand, I think the 6 seconds duration with the 35 seconds cooldown and the fact that the spirit power is lower than the maximum that can be achieved with Ammo Scavenger of 24, I think the value of Infuser is somewhat more limited than people give it credit for. Yeah, there are situations where the spirit lifesteal is just what you want, and again, if it's just a very quick engage, Infuser can give you the upper hand. But in terms of consistent lane pressure, consistent poke, consistent clear, Infuser is simply weaker in comparison to Ammo Scavenger sitting comfortably at 28 spirit power at full stacks. Does that make it bad? Not at all. I think I would just no longer prefer it, even though previously it's the item that I would have used more. Other than that, Infuser has the same problem that you also get with Ammo Scavenger, where it doesn't upgrade into anything, so you may not exactly have a slot for it or keep it for very long. Now, while I've spent quite a fair bit of time fangirling over Ammo Scavenger here, I will say, keep in mind that not every character scales well with spirit power. It's not necessarily equally effective on every character, and certain characters need specific items to reach their full effectiveness, so keep that in mind. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you get notified of other upcoming Deadlock videos. More info videos are coming in the next days. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, and thank you for watching. Sloth out.